Welcome back to Man on Crossing New Horizons. I'm Day Darling. As you'll see what's going on a lovely island of Fawnhollow today. We'll be talking about, I don't know what we'll be talking about. I recorded some more Anarchy today. I know I've been so back and forth with Anarchy, being like, am I going to continue playing it? Am I not going to enjoy playing it or whatever? So spoilers for Anarchy. I don't think people really care about Anarchy spoilers, to be honest. But I recorded some earlier today, and I finished off Reykjavik. And I was like, am I going to finish the final world in Anarchy and try and S-rank it? And then I looked at how many levels I had to do in Anarchy, and I was like, it's just like 5 levels. Because apparently I already S-ranked the final boss and the second final boss. I was like, I might as well. But anyway, hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, 6:05 PM on Friday, August 19th, 2022. So part of me was sort of just like, I might as well. And I gave the first like 2 levels a shot because I had like 10 minutes left, and I was like, okay, I got those done. I think I could probably do this because it's like I've got 3 levels left. Although to be fair, one of them is probably going to be the hardest level I think to S rank in the game. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it's an absolute nightmare, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. But I think I can deal, you know, that now that I've gone over the hump of, you know, doing Reykjavik. I don't know how you say it, you know, the capital of Iceland, Reykjavik. Something like that. I should really know how you say it because it's we did like a case study of it back in GCSE for geography with the volcanic eruption of Eyjafjallajökull, which caused like basically no planes could be flown for like all of like an entire summer or something back in 2007. Is that right? Is that too far back? That seems too far back. Eyjafjallajökull. I don't know how you spell it. Icelandic volcano eruption. Not that one. Not that one. Hold on. But there's one where it's like so much volcanic ash was released into the air in Europe that that all the things were around. 2010 of Eyjafjallajökull. Anyway, that's not really the point. So Reykjavik, it's now been done. So I'm just sort of like, I guess that's over and done with, which is nice. And now I've only got 3 levels left to do. I've got two kind of long ones. One of them which I'm pretty sure I can do. There's just one enemy in it, which is really annoying, and 2 which one of them I don't even remember, and the other one, which I think is the one I talked about, is a very difficult one to do. So let's see how that goes. Anarchy is here. It's going to be here for a bit longer because I was like, I might as well finish it off. I'm so close to the end. And you might be screaming from your chair, being like, sunk cost fallacy, sunk cost fallacy. And yeah, I guess it is kind of a sunk cost fallacy, but it's not really much of a sunk cost in the first place. You know, I'm playing the game to have a bit of challenge, have a bit of fun, and you know, and I was just wondering, I was like, is the challenge I'm seeking, is it like no longer fun? And then, you know, after actually defeating the annoying parts, it's back to being kind of a bit of fun again. It's this sort of thing, I shouldn't have basically tried to record it so often in a row, because to be fair, it was after Art Fight, so I was trying to like build up a backlog again. So I ended up recording the game over and over again, and it ended up being really annoying, to be honest. But I took like a 5-day break, a week break or something when playing it. And when I played it again, I was like, I had a great time, I think. So I think that's what I'll probably do for next time. I'll have like another 5-day break, and I think I have enough pre-recorded episodes. Yeah, I have enough pre-recorded episodes to take a long enough break before I go back to it, and then Cuphead will start. Finally, I will need to see, of course, thumbnail art for that, but it is Cuphead. I don't think it's going to be too involved with Cuphead thumbnail art, because from what I remember, the splash of it is just like a yellow background, so no background. That's easy. Yeah, taking a sip of water. Yeah, so, but that's not what we're going to talk about today, because of course it's not the most interesting thing to talk about a game which you haven't even completely beaten yet. So what could we talk about? Anything happening in my gacha gaming news? And I suppose, I must say, it's a rare thing for me to talk about Cinderella Girl Starlight Stage. One big thing is the fact that like the actual actually this could be an interesting conversation topic. So basically, there's an Idol Master franchise. You might be aware of it if you're sort of vaguely aware of like the idol genre in anime, and it has multiple sort of like sub-series as well, one of them being Cinderella Girls, which is kind of basically a giant ensemble cast where it's like 100 or something different characters or whatever, and they had stories and like merchandise and stuff all surrounding them. And the first time the game had been released, it was released as a game called Idol Masters, just like Cinderella Girls. It was a mobile game and a browser game, I think. It's very, very old. It's like a decade old or something, released around 2010s or something. where I don't actually know the gameplay of it because I've never played it, but it was I believe it's sort of like some sort of battle game where you like purchase different cards of different characters, and then you like create a team and you fight, and there's meant to be some sort of strategy with it. I don't really know off the top of my head, but the reason I'm talking about it is because it's actually something which is shutting down, and you're like, what, it's shutting down? Then why do you keep still talking about it? Well, the reason I talk about it is because they had a follow-up game released in, let me think, I think 2015 or something, because I started playing in 2016. I started playing like a year after it was released. Called Idolmaster Cinderella Girl Starlight Stage, which is like an absolute mouthful of a title, which is basically just a rhythm game. It's a gacha-based rhythm game. They release music like every week or so, or multiple songs quite often, and then different people sing it, and you play a beat map with it. There's also like the gacha element behind it, which is not really like there's actually an interesting amount of strategy which goes into it, but it's also a gacha game, so don't spend your money on that sort of thing, especially if you can't afford it. It's obviously a terrible decision. I just kind of play it because I kind of like the songs and I kind of like the franchise. But yeah, that's not really what I was talking about. But it's weird because of Cinderella Girls, the original Cinderella Girls is and was also a gacha game, and now it's shutting down. So it sort of gets you thinking, especially with a sort of games as a service model, because that's happened to a lot of games, where you purchase a game with the expectation that it's an online game, you get to play it for a while, and then the service shut down. Obviously, the fact that the Cinderella Girls has gone on for about 10 years or something, that's a pretty decently long time. I think people knew eventually it was going to shut down, or at least stop being updated at some point. There's not really like anything you can do about that. It's just going to stop being updated. But it's also weird to think because it's going to start happening, with more and more frequency in more recent years, isn't it? Because quite a lot of the games which are really popular now are games as a service in model, like League of Legends, Dota 2. I'm trying to think, like, well, to be fair, some of those do also have like offline modes, but that's not obviously the main draw of the game. CS:GO, other things. I don't know, Valorant. I'm only thinking Riot Games. They're obviously all like games as a service. But the free service, mind you. You sign up, you play the game, and in-app purchases. Oh, Fortnite's a very good example as well. Like, a lot of these games are based around the multiplayer aspect, and they need that multiplayer aspect to actually sort of like function as a game. If you took away like all the other players in the game who played the solo game, it's not going to be as fun. You might be like, oh, but Fortnite's got a solo mode, single player mode. Yeah, but that's not the one which is popular, is it? So, and it sort of just gets you wondering, like, eventually these games are going to have to shut down. They're going to stop being run, whether it be like technology gets outdated, or they just lose popularity. It is inevitable. The games are just going to stop being played. And then it's sort of a question of like, compared to the games of yore, the games of past, the way you bought them, you buy them under the expectation that you're going to play them you're going to have them for the rest of your life. Like, I could still boot up Steam right now and play Plants vs Zombies, a game I bought like way back in like almost primary school or something, and TF2, etc., etc. It's sort of weird to think about the fact that actually TF2 is even a weirder example because it is an online game, isn't it? It's sort of weird that these games as a service are going to be shut down, and I think it's something which you just kind of expect. I play these games, I understand eventually they're going to be shut down. I think it's more noticeable, and it's not really something you have to think about now because, and especially for resale games, I've got more than a decade's worth of gameplay from League of Legends, and other people who play other games like Fortnite or Dota 2 or whatever game of your choice. You've probably got like a decent amount of years playing it in the first place, and the fact that you didn't actually have to purchase much to sign up for it in the first place, it's more like you're purchasing to play that game for X amount of years of your life. It's not like you're still playing the games that you bought like 20 years ago, if you were even live back then. Like, I don't know, I bought Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red or something like ages ago when I was super young. It's not like I'm still playing that. I probably didn't even play it for the majority of a year. Well, compared to League of Legends, I didn't even have to pay anything when I signed up, and I played it for like over a decade. I guess it's kind of like a give and take, where it's the sort of thing where, like, with these long-standing games, it doesn't really matter, does it? The sign-up cost is nothing in the first place. It's only in-app purchases, which are optional, and you kind of purchase them with the understanding that they're kind of tied with this online system in the first place. That when that dies, then of course your purchase will be lost with it. But you're purchasing not really for the owning of a skin, more like to use that skin for that time period. And it doesn't really matter with these really long ongoing games, the ones that have been around for decades. You got your time's worth out of them. Not many games are sort of games that you'll play around for like more than 15 years, like at maximum. Of course that sort of varies, but and often these games are from now like video game giants, you can absolutely expect them. If their game is starting to die out, they're going to do something to reboot it. They're going to do something to bring back like fresh blood. Fresh blood, such a horrific way of putting it, but fresh like users to actually like repopulate the system and keep it going, because it is a thing which makes them money, isn't it? So I guess when you play these much more like I don't want to call them like safer games, but the games which have like the following behind them in the first place, there's not really much to be worried about. You know, you're paying for that decade, even if it only is for a decade. A decade is still a long time to play like a game for, so you know it's not too bad in the end. I'm not saying it's optimal, you know, because it doesn't translate to everything. You know, for example, what do I think about the fact that Adobe products have now gone from one-time purchases to subscription models? I'm just like, hate that. But there's no alternative, unfortunately. Actually, there are alternatives, but there's no alternatives to purchasing that exact product, which is a shame. And just saying, if you want to have something like Adobe Photoshop, may I recommend Clip Studio Paint? It goes on sale basically every 3 months. And you know how long their free trial lasts? 3 months. Just saying. and plus I do all my thumbnail arts in it and all my art in it from like at least the past 2 years, and then done Clip Studio Paint. So if you want any sort of like advocacy for it, there you go. I know it's not industry standard, but industry standard is Photoshop. But I suppose if you work in the industry, you'll probably have it subsidised by the company you work for, so that's okay, I guess. Because at the end of the day, I can't really blame Adobe for doing it, because they make the most money out of their businesses, you know, buying like, or being like, oh, we need a team of artists, they each need like their own individual like license for Adobe Photoshop or After Effects or whatever. That's like £20, you know, rather than being like a business expense of being like, oh, we had to pay like £500 times like, I don't know, a team of 30 artists or something once. Now, you know, Adobe gets a lot more money by being like, hey businesses, you're going to have to pay £20 times 30 every single month if you always want the latest updates, and etc, etc, etc. And the businesses, you know, that obviously that number is not really, is sort of like trifling to them. It's like, of course they can pay that, but it's just kind of annoying, I suppose, for the individual, isn't it? It'd be nice if they had like an additional license. It'd be like, if you're an individual, not using it for the company, using it for your own like well-respected business for yourself, you can just have a one-off purchase or something. But you know, obviously that's not exactly how things work in the wider business world. So unfortunately, the individuals get kind of like shafted. But luckily, there are alternatives. A lot of these sort of different things. You know, if you want to use Adobe Photoshop, Clip Studio Paint, one-time purchase. If you want a free software, GIMP is pretty good. It's okay, like it's usable. Krita is also a fantastic open source software. Things like Adobe After Effects, you need an editing tool. DaVinci Resolve's got you covered. There's a free version which you can do most things that you need to do for basic video editing. I use it. It's perfectly fine. There's lots of alternatives. You want like Adobe Audition, you got Audacity, free open source software. You know, all of these has like the business standard and the industry standard and the individual standard, which, you know, can be different depending on your sort of budget. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a bit weird, because I suppose it's, you know, video games obviously being much more newer medium. Seeing things which are affecting other industries, I suppose, can affect it as well. You know, the services, you know, eventually run out. It's kind of expected in a lot of other industries, of course. But you know, now having it as a video game, it's, I don't know, I guess it's kind of weird, but, you know, it's to be expected. It's kind of what you signed up for in first place. And technically all the games you bought online are technically also kind of like part of a like games as a service, like things you buy on Steam. All those games, you might be like, oh, I own them forever. You kind of only own them until, as long as Steam is still a business. Obviously, Steam's not going anywhere anytime soon. They're an absolute titan in the industry and make a heck of a lot of money. So that they have no sort of like motivation to go soon, like, I don't know, Gabe and you're having an absolute breakdown and deciding to sell everything. Yeah, but technically, like, those games you kind of only own until Steam stops like hosting things, right? It's not like itch.io where you buy them and you can buy them and you actually like get the exe of the game and download it yourself, I suppose. And you know, it's not hosted on, well, I guess it's hosted on itch.io. I guess you won't be able to download that anymore when it's gone as well. It's kind of weird. But all in all, I think people are generally along the idea of these games as a service thing, like, you know, they're kind of okay with it, because a lot of the money you invest into it are kind of only for in-app purchases or optional in-app purchases in first place. And oftentimes at the games, you don't often need, there's not many games anymore where you need like an ongoing subscription to continuously play them. The exception being MMORPGs or like World of Warcraft, I think Final Fantasy as well. But nowadays, they sort of have like both concurrently, where they have like free licenses and subscription licenses. So it's more like a subscription to sort of like upgrade your account, isn't it? It's not like I don't know how gated you are from content. in the first place. And I guess it's just kind of like what people expect. But it goes kind of weird, I think, when you start talking about gacha games as well. Because gacha games, you know, it's quite a predatory business model, at least is their intention in the first place. And whether, you know, you can be an adult and play, and you can play it safely, of course, and not like spend your life savings on it or anything. But of course, the entire point of it is they kind of want you to spend money in the first place. Even though a lot of gacha games nowadays are actually kind of good, at least a lot of Japanese ones tend to be. They tend to have a reasonable amount of substance, or at least artistic merit behind them, I think. It's sort of just like, it gets a bit fuzzy, you know, I think, when you have a games as a service, because, yeah, you can technically play these games for free, but the biggest way they make money is by the monetary value of what are dubbed whales. You know, side note, I really love, like, the name of a whaling system in like, gacha games. If you don't know, it goes like, it goes like krill or something for people who don't spend money, I can't remember. Goldfish for people who spend, like, a small amount of money. I think there's another step, I can't remember, but then it goes like dolphin for people who spend a sort of, and okay, like kind of like often with money, and then like whale for people who spend quite regularly, and then it goes like, what was it? But there was one above whale, or kraken for people who spend an exorbitant amount of money, and then it goes to leviathan for people who spend a ridiculous amount of money, like very often. I don't know, something about that scale sort of just like tickles my fancy exactly, but I don't exactly know what. I guess it's just kind of amusing, but anyway, back on topic. It's kind of weird because people do spend like genuinely lots and lots of money. Like, you'd be surprised about how much people spend. If you don't play gacha games, or you're not like in the know, you'd be like, oh, how much do people spend? Probably like a couple of hundred or something. You know, but I say no. I'm talking about like some people will spend tens of thousands per month in these games, and you might be like, what? Yeah, I know, right? Granted, that's a minority. I think the majority of the people spend no money to spending maybe like £5 to £10 or something a month, which you might be like, oh, okay, that's pretty reasonable in the end, isn't it? Especially if it's a game that you like enjoy playing and you play quite a lot. It's just sort of like have a cookie crumbles. But I wonder what the whales like think. You know, after seeing like their game go out of service because, you know, not because this, you know, the game's just no longer supported or anything like that. I'd imagine for a game like Master Cinderella Girls, after 10 years of like service, a lot of whales are probably like, you know, they kind of understand why they're signing up for in the first place. But I'd imagine it gets a bit weirder for games which are like only get run for like 1 year. Like I believe the profit margins, unless you really are like one of those viral ones like Genshin Impact, etc., I believe the profit margins must be quite tight because there's a lot of content to pump out, and you have to pump out very quickly, otherwise your player base gets kind of bored. Which is why they have such an like aggressive monetary scheme in the first place, is because like you kind of need to get a lot of money, and because of mobile games having the sort of like buy-in price has to be free, but otherwise people won't purchase it. Versus kind of like the accepted meta around them, you kind of had to be, you know, you got to get your money from somewhere. Basically, is the sort of long and short of what I'm trying to say. And it's, I don't know, it's just weird. It's just, I don't know, because like I spent some money on like these gacha games. I haven't spent like ridiculous amounts or like my life savings or anything. But like what would I feel about like these games if they just like shut down? I don't know, because all of the games I play are games that have been going on for a very long time. Like, you know, Cinderella Girls has been going on, Starlight Stage has been going on for 7 years now almost. That's pretty crazy long. You know, Genshin Impact has no signs of stopping anytime soon. Shining Colours, you know, luckily under the Idolmaster franchise, I think it's pretty safe for a while. It's just, I don't know exactly what I think if and when these games get shut down. I guess you kind of have to go into these with a mindset about being like, yeah, it's going to shut down eventually. You have to understand, right? If you make a purchase, the purchase is temporary. But to be fair, you know, on the defense, on the flip side, I'm not going to say necessarily defense of a monetization scheme, because it's not meant to be a defense of monetization scheme. Just sort of like a different perspective. A lot of things you purchase are temporary. You know, you purchase a new coat. You're not like, I'm gonna have this coat for the rest of my life and it's really high quality. You're gonna be like, it'll probably last about a decade or so, and then maybe, you know, I'll grow and it'll like no longer be my size, in which case I'll donate it. Maybe it'll just, you know, it'll be like rough and tumble. Eventually it might break, or maybe it'll just fall out of fashion and I just never end up using it again. A lot of things you purchase are temporary. You know, meals you purchase at restaurants, they're only gonna last and satiate you for a while. Of course, the flip side of that would be like, you know, that's a need rather than a want. Okay, so what about, you know, what if you spend like £20 to go to one of those like fun places where you have like trampolines everywhere and that sort of thing. You know, you're not going to really get that time back. You're only kind of doing it just for the experience as itself. And these gacha games, you know, you're actually purchasing actual items, you might say grossly overpriced, but still items at the end of the day. So I don't know. Obviously, the answer's not so clear cut, and really, I think the answer is it kind of depends on who you are and what you value, right? I think it's unfair for a lot of things. It's not that it's unfair, but it's also like silly, I suppose, to purchase things like games and expect that they're going to last forever, because they're not going to. Like, none. Very few things you purchase really last forever. Obviously, you kind of want them to last your lifetime, because that's, you know, what you're alive for. But very few things last for like huge amounts of time in the first place. It's sort of just like where do we draw the line for games, I suppose? Obviously, there is some clear distinction. I don't mean to be like, oh, everyone should be fine with games as a service. Everyone should be fine with like paying subscriptions. No, that's not what I mean. I'm just sort of like, I'm trying to, you know, talk about both sides to represent them in a fair light. You know, see all the perspectives, so thus you can make your own sort of informed decision on it. And I think as long as you go into the idea of playing these games with the understanding that eventually these games as a service are going to be done, then it's fine, you know. Clearly, I think a lot of people are quite happy with that arrangement, if anything, because a lot of these games as a service are still like around, and people still play them. I think a lot of people are perfectly fine with it. You know, me myself, purchased League of Legends skins. Eventually, they're gonna, you know, not be things anymore. I'm not gonna be able to own them anymore. You know, it's something which I've understood. You know, it's like I'd rather, you know, purchase this money now to enhance like these 10 years of my life, or, you know, however many years that League of Legends keeps going on, enhance these years of my life while playing the game, rather than not spending it all. And some people are going to be like, that seems pointless to me, I don't want to spend on that, so I won't. Fair enough, you know, everyone's got, as long as you are responsible about it, I think it's perfectly fine, you know, having either opinion, you know, being swayed either way. And at the end of the day, I think it's sort of a weird case where kind of everyone weirdly wins. Not okay, maybe not literally everyone. Because obviously the business makes money, they win. That's just kind of a given, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business, you know, you gotta make money. But also, like, think about it, like, all these free people can now play the game for free, and it's supported. They didn't have to pay a cent to get all this entertainment out of it. Or even these low spenders, you know, you purchase a game for technically like £5 or something, you know. Technically, that's fine, I guess. You know, you got to play this game for free, and you had like, you didn't have to do anything for it in the first place. And then, provided that the people spending money are, you know, in control of it, which, you know, asterisks I'll come back to, they have been perfectly happy with the sort of like setup in the first place, and, you know, wouldn't be spending if they weren't happy. Now, coming back to asterisks, that's not really how it works. That's kind of like living in a fantasy world where it's like, oh yeah, you know, everyone who whales in these sort of games is definitely 100% in control and not being preyed on by their own sort of like gambling sort of addictive personality traits, I suppose. Which is where, you know, the sort of like thing gets muddled, because it's the thing you can easily talk about in theory. Hey, not a bad idea. If you can play for free if you want, or you can spend as much money as you want, depending on what you want, you know. For games, especially when it's just cosmetics and in-app purchases, I think most people are pretty okay with that, aren't they? You know, it's just being like, I could spend money to get a skin, or I could just like enjoy the game in its base form. You know, some people are being like, oh, of course I want to look pretty while I'm playing this game. Of course I want to enjoy it. It's going to enhance my experience. And some people are like, I only care about raw mechanics. Both those people are satisfied in this equation, aren't they? But it's just, yeah, it gets a bit weird on gacha games, because a lot of times it's not just cosmetics anymore, is it? It's actual, like, mechanics of a game, and it gets a bit weird. It gets a bit like, ugh. Don't know how to feel about it. And honestly, yeah, I think you can feel about it whatever way. It's sort of like a situation where, I don't know, because I'm, I suppose, more caught up in it than other people. I like these games, and I know I can spend responsibly in them, so I'm like pretty okay with them in theory. But again, I don't like it like preying on other people who may not necessarily be in the same situation as I, and who, you know, don't have as much control over it, I suppose, of their like over whatever habits they have. You know, it gets a bit weird, doesn't it? I guess it's kind of like I kind of like strayed from a point of like end of service of games, but still, I don't know. But bring it back to end of service, because that's the focus of like this discussion that we're having today. I guess at the end of the day, you know, I'm kind of fine with, you know, these games, you know, eventually seeing the end of our life. At least for me personally, I don't tend to really go back and play like all these super old games that I have or anything. Like, when's the last time I booted up, you know, like Nintendo Wii to play like Wii Play or something, you know? That could have been a games of service, would not have affected me in the slightest, you know? Be like, oh, you know, Wii Play servers are shutting down. I can no longer play Wii Play from like 5 years after I bought it. Oh well, I guess, you know. I guess it's sort of like a lost aversion thing where, like, intrinsically in me, I'm just like, I hate that. I still want to own the thing I purchased money for. But, you know, in reality is, I haven't played that game for years. And, you know, theoretically, if this, like, Wii Play game was a game as a service and it was supported until now, I wouldn't have touched it, you know? It would have literally had no effect on me if it shut down, like, a year after release or if it didn't. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? Because while I want to, not want to necessarily, but it feels bad to be like, you no longer have access to this game. And I feel like a lot of these games, they really should try and preserve at least the offline experience where possible. You know, I'm trying to think of like a good example of one, but like it'd be cool, like with Fortnite, when Fortnite eventually shuts down, where obviously they have a battle royale, but you can still play the battle royale against like a load of bots or something, or maybe you can like still explore around the map, etc. Or like a map in its last instance. League of Legends may be cool if you can still play bot games, or whether like locally hosted on your own computer. I don't know. So you can still have your like new shiny skins to look at. I understand, of course, why they don't. You know, it's just like, I suppose, a bit pointless, but in their eyes, because it's no longer making money. I guess what you could do is that you could repackage it and be like, you can spend like £10 and like keep everything you have in like an offline game. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people would have like, there'd be a lot of backlash to that, because that's rightfully so a very sort of like money first idea rather than actual like you know, change first idea, I suppose. I don't know, but it's happened like in a few games. Like you hear about like other old like Call of Duties and Halos and Battlefields or whatever. Like the old games, their multiplayer servers have been shut down, you know, but you still got the core single player gameplay there from the first place. But I don't know, the experience is different nowadays, because nowadays multiplayer is sort of like king in the video game industry, right? So a lot of the games are being released just as standalone multiplayer games rather than having single player tied up into it. What do you do then? I don't know. Is there even any worth of like making like a single player version of it to still sort of like keep around? Do people still want to wander around the Call of Duty like Warzone map after, you know, if there's no like multiplayer battle royale for it? I don't have an answer. I honestly don't know. I'd be really curious to see what other people's like sort of opinions on it would be. And, you know, there's some data side of my brain being like, what are the trends? what does the global population think of this opinion? I'm really not sure, to be honest, what the answer is. And it's weird. I guess if anything, it sort of delves into the preservation of like old games and that sort of thing. It'd be nice to preserve them, and it's just a shame that things can't be preserved in their state they are now, just due to the fact of the design of a game in the first place. They're multiplayer. There's not going to be people playing it anymore online. That's it. But yeah, I don't know. Games service. And end of service eventually happens. So yeah, I feel like I've talked about this before, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to round off this episode here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join my Dear Darling Discord, follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we see each other again, but for now, it's all very well. So until next time, bye-bye for now.